Well, Mr. Jim, you're a special guest here on Ruction Nation. You are the father of our co-host, Nick. So welcome to Ruction Nation.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to kick things off, it's our 15th episode, so we're like, might as well do something different than we've done so far, something a little special. So wanted to bring you out and hear about your experiences. What'd you tell me yesterday? 40 years?
40 years. This year will be 40 years. 1985.
Do you remember your first job? Your first?
I do. And I know you guys are kind of looking to get the trades hopped up again and get people back actively seeking it. So I think I started right in high school. I think I drew to woodworking. We had a woodworking in our high school. We didn't have any automotive, or I probably would have been there because that's my hobby. But the woodworking at school was drafting, woodworking, and then I became like a shop aide in junior senior year. But yeah, I always liked working with my hands, so I kind of knew that going into the end of high school. So I never really looked to the college avenue. A lot of my friends did, and a lot of people were going that way. But I always like to work with my hands and produce something. So I always felt at the end of the day when you do something and build something that it's tangible, you can see it, you can feel it, show people, give it for gifts and things like that. In fact, we had a lathe too. I was in high school. I was making lamps, different things. We'd laminate different woods together, different hardwoods, and make lamp bottoms for them and things like that. So I always thought it was neat to do that process, and that's what kind of got me interested. So after, at the end of my high school time, I knew I wasn't going to college. I looked into trade school, and fortunately, St. Paul Votech had a very small class in carpentry, 20 people, all they accepted. And I fortunately got into that. But literally 10 days after I graduated from high school, I was in carpentry-related classes out in the summer of that, which was tough.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but what were those classes like? What did they consist of?
In the summertime, they had the actual teacher was a union carpenter, a union rep. He didn't show up till the fall, but the summertime was welding, blueprint reading, and then we had just carpenter math. That's when you use your framing square. You laid everything out with the numbers. A lot of people don't know how to use all those numbers on the square, but all those mean all the hips, the rafters. You can do a lot of things off that square. Where now, obviously, truss companies do all that stuff. All your hip cuts, all your things are done for you. But yeah, those three classes, welding in the summer, that was great. Right out of, obviously you don't want to really get into that, but I was fortunate enough to get in that, and I was by far the youngest in that class. Most of those guys were all in their mid-20s. So I was, again, I think my shop teacher in high school kind of helped me along. I think he put in a good word for me to get me in there because that was kind of the direction I wanted to go. But yeah, it was a great experience there. It was only a year-long program, but they obviously pushed the union teacher, the union business agents would come in and talk to you about getting into the apprenticeship program. So I went into that, and that was more education and finer details of concrete work. Obviously, you can only cover so much in a year long, and actually it was only 9 months because those first 3 months were spent on the related classes. But we built things, and we built all these different like yard barns with different. We've hand framed the roofs and things in trade school. So I really would recommend people instead of. I think that's a big push out there right now is don't get into debt. Don't even attempt that first year because you could be on campus, 15 grand, 20 grand in debt if you're in the state that you're going to and that you live there.
Say it's more common to be spending $30,000 to $75,000 for 1 year.
I just don't know how that's sustainable, especially when you're not really knowing what you want to do, if that makes sense.
Because, how many 17, 18-year-olds know exactly what they want to do, how the world works? You don't really grasp any of that for a long time.
Well, and the irony of it was too, because in high school I was building cabinets. I like that. I like the enclosed environment, the shop. Carpentry is a completely different thing. I knew obviously carpenters build houses. They do a lot of build buildings, do different things, but I had no idea the amount of things you can get to flooring, concrete, scaffolding, and you can do so many things in the carpentry world. And I like that. I had options, and I got a chance to do a lot of that as an apprentice carpenter. And I think kids these days, that's just something that's obviously weighs strong on their head. They have to go to school, they have to do this, and a lot of them, some of them don't want to do that. They don't want to be physical, but
It's a lot of peer pressure.
Was college an option for you?
oh, I could have, yeah. I wasn't the best student. I knew kind of my senior year, but before my senior year, that's the direction I wanted to go.
You got to tell them what award you got in school.
Well, that's another thing. And as we get into this further, I've been chosen as a leader a lot of times in all the companies I've worked for. And one of the things and I look to now as I manage 23 guys in a millwork shop, is consistency, being at the site. And my whole life, I don't know why, but grade school, I got awards for the attendance awards.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was just because that's where all your friends were. I wasn't hardly ever sick or anything, but numerous times in grade school and even high school, but it kind of led over into my professional career. And
Show up.
that's one thing employers, myself considering, that I love to have people there every day. If you miss somebody, and especially now that I'm in, a process, if you miss one of the processes, if you miss somebody operating that machine or, manufacturing that product, you miss a day, you got to have someone move around. It just throws everything off. So I guess that's one of the things I've always been told by my employers, that I'm just there all the time. That's just kind of way I've always operated. So.
Yeah, in fact, I interviewed a carpenter today for our company, and that's one of the biggest things we ask for is consistency and dependability. Show up every day, be consistent, and show up on time. Be dependable. Those are probably the top two things that I look for when I'm hiring kind of an entry level carpenter or laborer, or someone that's going to be hands-on in the field.
Yeah, and with the trades too, with that, as you get into the trades, I think a lot of people, and Nick can attest to this, over the years, just by being all the carpentry, I've always done my own projects. In fact, let's take it back a little further. When my wife and I had Nick, of course, first, then we had a set of twins 2 years after Nick, and then we had one, Ellie Oops. She showed up 6 years after that, but 4 kids. There's a lot of opportunity for people that have trades, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, all that, to do side jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times on the nice summer days, we were in Minnesota, of course, in the wintertime, and I framed houses all through the winter. We did all that with the conditions we had to work with. Obviously 20 below, you kind of knock off then, but but a lot of decks. I did a lot of side jobs, built nothing advertised, just by word of mouth. At one point I worked for my brother-in-law, who is a pretty big builder up there, residential builder. And he didn't, he built the houses. He said, go ahead, you can, bid the decks and do all that. So the side money you could make on that to support yourself was, it supported a lot of our extra entertainments if we were boating or whatever we were doing. It kind of was a good avenue to earn extra money, where if you're in a behind the desk job, obviously computers, there's a lot of things people can do on the side too, but this is, again, something physical. You're outside, long winter, you get kind of cooped up, you want to go out, and it's fun to work. I enjoy doing it. I got a little bit long-winded in those days, but a lot of stuff to come home and but by the time you do your regular job, you do the next one, and then you have a little bit of time with the kids maybe, but.
Right. Do you remember, because you have both your boys I work with, do you remember the time that they both told you that we're going to enter into the industry? Do you remember how it made you feel? What your thoughts were, or a piece of advice that you gave them?
With Nick, he was going for civil engineering, and there's so many avenues with that. I mean, again, I didn't know which way he was going to go. I didn't even know he was going to head out into the construction world, because Mitch and Nick both have been around job sites pretty much from their whole life. Either ours at our house when I was doing them, or I brought them out to job sites, when they were little. A couple jobs, I don't know if you remember, we had them in a front end loader one day. I couldn't get a guy to load trucks.
Best day of my life.
Was it?
It was a blast.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you remember how old you were?
Oh, I was probably, well, you probably remember the year.
Something in 1998, 97, 98, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so I was like 8 or 9, 7 or 8.
Yeah, it just happened. My excavator couldn't get an operator that day, but he could get trucks, and I had a small site doing an IHOP, had a ton of dirt to offload, so I could get ready for my curb and gutter. Said, I'll operate the machine, just get the trucks. And I had both my boys with me and a great big front end loader. We just loaded trucks all day.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, they've seen, a lot of developments. I've never really been involved with as big a project as Confluence. Most of my career was spent in the restaurant world. I built restaurants I started off doing a lot of Old Chicago's and Timber Lodge steakhouses, and a little bit of Rock Bottom Brewery. Rock Bottom and Old Chicago were the same company at the time, and that's kind of bringing me to the next step. As we were building a lot of those, the contract I worked for in Minnesota, I was relatively new at this company, and they moved me into a position where they wanted me to be a superintendent on a bigger Old Chicago, kind of a banquet room too, in Apple Valley, Minnesota. So I had an opportunity, and I took it. I didn't know, I had no formal training, no schooling in project management or superintendent. So, but I've been around enough jobs with people, and the avenue to superintendent a lot of times comes from carpenters. If you notice a lot of jobs, that's kind of a natural step. I mean, as it was when I was in it, a lot of carpenters.
That's the route. Up. That's the route Cody took.
Yeah, I used to work for a framing company, and
Mm-hmm.
tried my suit in in different companies doing like concrete welding, and then I jumped on with a small residential builder based out of Franktown, and they did everything, and it was all custom homes. And he was slowing down, and he offered me 2 different ways to structure pay, and ultimately it wasn't going to work out for me. So he gave me a contact for a bigger GC that did churches and schools. And so I was with them for 10 years prior to coming here. So, yeah, my path is the school of hard knocks, much like most,
Absolutely.
or not most, but a good chunk of superintendents.
Well, you learn pretty quick. I mean, because it can get harsh. Obviously, the subs when I was pretty young then. I was like your guys' age, or as early 30s, late 20s. A lot of the subs, you got to earn their respect. I mean, that's just the way it is out there. So it's as a young guy, you got to learn from them. You got to ask a lot of questions. Can't be too it's hard to be overbearing when obviously you're working with people that know so much more about their trade or the job site than you do. But it's a great learning. It's on the job learning, basically. I had a couple bosses tell me that you should be paying me. You're learning a trade out here. You're learning a new position and I'm paying you for it. So, but.
Yeah. I love that you said that, though. I think it's always in the back of people's minds that you just have to be a sponge every moment of your day. But I don't think people talk about that enough. Just picking each trade's mind.
Oh, to observe. I mean, to observe what they do, how they do it. And you kind of, as you pick up on it from job to job. Now, mine were smaller, quicker jobs. Restaurants were typically, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 to 12 weeks. But in that time frame, you're dealing with all the subs.
That's almost harder than the big projects because you're on such a tight
small room,
timeline.
Small timeline, and it's interesting. So I struggled a little bit in the beginning. I liked it because I always could do the physical part. So I had owners of the company say, "Now you're the super. You got to put your bags down, and you got to manage people, and you have to keep the timeline, keep the schedule, work with the project manager." So that was a little bit of a learning curve to step out of the physical part. And there's times that the traffic's so bad in the Twin Cities at times, I'd be souping a job all day, 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'd put my bags on. I'd start hanging doors. I'd start doing things to progress my own job, and I'd get home at the same time because I wouldn't get in the traffic. So it was a good a great company that I worked for, and they allowed me the opportunity to do all that stuff. But they also allowed me one of their clients was Rock Bottom on Old Chicago, which I was building their Old Chicagos in the Twin Cities. They approached me and said, "Hey, our guy's leaving to the franchise world, project manager. Would you be interested in coming into project managing, in Old Chicago, moving to Colorado?" I had 4 kids and my wife. I knew a family, the guy that actually I was taking his position was out here, and he was just moving to the franchise side and was going to help them. So that was kind of the next step is to make that decision. It was a big move.
So how did you make that decision?
I think it was, it was something I wanted to do with the company I was in. They liked me as the project or the superintendent. I worked with a couple of the owners. I was their superintendent personally, and then one made their main project manager. I was his super. So I kind of wanted to make that next step. I wanted to get even the way I learned it again. I didn't have the education. I didn't go to school for construction management. But I was around it enough. With the project manager would always go over the whole job with me in the beginning. So any contractor would come up to me, I would know this is included or this is not. If they can't play that game, a lot of times they do. That's a change order. Well, no, that scope of work, that's yours. So I was around it enough where I kind of got interested in it. I wanted to do it. So I just kind of took the challenge. I had a family friend. Trying to think. He a year, not even, probably 6 months before he had some problems, kidney stuff, and he ended up passing away. So, back in my mind, I'm like, life is short. I mean, I was 37, 38. I can, talk to my wife, and they said, we could always come back. I could always pick up where I left off back where I was. But I said, it's worth the challenge. Worth the, I bought a house out here in the mountains, sight unseen. I took a video of it for my wife and the kids and brought it back.
It was a crazy experience. I mean, I was 12 and it felt temporary. Like we're packing up everything we own. We drove, what is it? It's about 1,000 miles from where we live to here. And my mom's towing 4 snowmobiles with our massive snowmobile trailer. My dad's towing the boat, and we have everything we own. And I'm like, we're going on vacation. That's what it felt like. But it was funny because I vividly remember being sat down, and like I said, I was 12. Mitch and Megan were 10, and then our youngest sister was 4.
She was only 4.
She was 4. But they sat us all down, and they were like, you guys want to move to Colorado? And we were just like, I guess. I don't even know what that means, but sure.
Can we take our friends?
Yeah, we left all our friends, all of our family was still there. So it was kind of crazy to do at that point in your guys' life.
I think at a high school level, I don't think we would have done it. I mean, they were still in the middle school or the lower grades. I think they had friends, but I don't think once you establish some high school friends, that was a bad time. So, and I always thought back, now I have my trade, so I can go back and I can get a job as a carpenter. I kind of veered off to the finish end of things. So I know I could do that. In fact, I had a little stint before I went to this bigger company, bigger GC, Diversified Construction in Minnesota, that I did my own. I just, Ernst Custom Repair, and I did all kinds of, I'd have all kinds of people to call me for punch list stuff and custom homes, or some of the remodels. I'd go do most of the remodel. And I stuck to my trade, to do the demo, all the carpentry. I'd rock it, and they bring in tapers, and then I'd go in and trim it. So, I mean, that's another thing about getting into the trades. You have, that's a lifelong skill that you have.
To this day, I mean, we added that porch covering on my house, and I'm standing there kind of scratching my head at first, and you come in and you're just like, no, we just got to start doing this. I was like, wow, it's impressive how quickly it just comes back to you.
Yeah. It never really leaves. So I always had that in the back of my head that if it didn't work out here, my old company would accept me back, and I could go back and do that. So I think as people are looking at the trades, I mean, that's something. And plus, I can't believe how much it costs to have somebody do something in your house, on your car. Again, the car thing's my hobby, so I enjoy working with them, maintaining them, doing all that. But the carpentry part of it, and then the other thing I was thinking about the other night is, everything's got YouTube now. You can YouTube anything and find anything out, pretty much. But as a tradesman or as a superintendent or out on job sites, you have all these people around you with all the knowledge. That's YouTube Live.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
You can ask, the heating guy. You can ask the plumbing electrician. You can ask anyone. And, obviously, the good guys to ask, the guys that are more experienced.
It is amazing how much knowledge. I mean, that's a really good point that you have inside our fenced off construction site at any given moment that you can pretty much figure out any problem related to building.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The only thing that concerns me that popped into my head is just thinking about like the age gap in construction, and just watching some of the guys that are just a wealth of knowledge, either retiring or moving on to different positions and not having them as a resource. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, that's part of the reason we need to kind of push the trades and get people out there. And I think high school kids need to realize there's a other path, and it's a debt-free path. And kind of debt-free. It's not.
Yeah, you tend to have expensive hobbies when you're in this industry.
Yeah.
Offsets the pay a little bit.
So, yeah, I've always thought your progression was pretty interesting just throughout your whole career. So you kind of mentioned you started straight out of high school, trade school. You were framing houses, hands-on, bags on, in the field, got more into trim carpentry, got your first break with a GC, doing commercial jobs, working as a superintendent, which I think you were kind of hands-on superintendent at that point too. And then when you got the job that moved us to Colorado, that was your first PM position, correct?
Yeah, that's really before. The pagers were out there, and your phones were pretty primitive right then. But yeah, coming out here, actually, the CEO they were a little nervous, thinking they're bringing a caged animal into a building, and they said they get a bobcat for me. I could dig holes in the back and just move dirt around if I freaked out, because the computer wasn't a world I was used to, and luckily I had a lot of people helping me. I had a great director of construction there that kind of mentored me. He was from the ranks all the way through school back then, and had a bigger company. His dad had a big company in California, and then he was with Rock Bottom. So that's another important thing is mentors, is to kind of not latch onto somebody, but if your boss is the right person, to kind of follow how they do things and how they, how they got to their position and how successful they are. You can determine that too. If maybe it's not somebody you want to follow, but that's what it was a big thing there, is I had a lot of help. And that really began my traveling career. When we moved out here in 2004, I had 13 years of traveling because I was building things. There's some other things were here with Rock Bottom and Sports and Rock Bottom, and it was Old Chicago and Rock Bottom. But as that kind of took a turn 4 or 5 years into it, and they kind of pulled back their development, and that's when I switched over to Sports Authority. Talk about fast pace. Sports Authority was taking on everything they could, purchasing everything they could, and they bought everything that was out there, and then they started building. So that was a different project management skill set, because I was project managing. I wasn't controlling the 60, 70,000 square foot buildings, but you were in charge of making sure they're on time to turn it over so you could do your TI.
I was just going to ask, how true is it, the little bit that I know about restaurants, they're not cookie cutter, but they're similar, the buildings, right? Or are there a lot of differences?
No, the systems are all all pretty much the same, but there's just so many variations.
From jurisdiction to jurisdiction, or
you have your hoods. The hood's the big thing. Obviously, you guys do have you prep your buildings to do the long grease duct.
Mhm.
In most of my TIs, the grease duct's only one story, but you still have to get all that in. The fire systems, the suppressions, the Ansel systems. If it's piranha, if it's water, there's a lot of different things involved in them. But those are all preset once you go in. I mean, you have pretty good MEPs on all that to make sure all that's checked off with the city. But you have all your inspections, and health is a big one, difficult one to get by. In some areas, I mean, sometimes they have common sense and they see what's going on, and it's you always have you guys are learning a little bit working with the city. As I traveled, because I had multiple jobs going in different states from East Coast to West Coast, you figure out first of all, what city inspectors, what's going to be your problem? What's your source? That as you go through some inspections, you have your superintendent say, look, the fire is going to be very difficult, or the health, or the electrician. So you try to figure that out. At that point, I'm working with my superintendents. I'm working with my GC and the project manager, and working with all the tools you have out on the sites. But you have to, traveling is a whole nother animal. You have to do what you do in your office, but you also have to get the job sites done and make sure they have answers, because they're such tight, 9-week schedules. That was one thing I learned, how to do things quickly, because they need answers. As the GC's building things, especially if they're a new GC to you, they're not familiar with your project. Without answers, either they're going to do the wrong thing or they're going to stop, and you're going to hold up your project. And again, 9 weeks is pretty quick.
Right. I wonder how many times I guess 2 questions. How did you guys pick your subcontractors to start?
General con.
Yeah, your general contractor. How did you pick them when you came into a state or?
I'm trying to think. They had kind of a list of contractors, like Sports Authority.
Preferred
Yeah,
contractors.
Sports Authority definitely had
Okay.
preferred contractors, and they were very strict with becoming a contractor for them, because they had some issues of people not paying their subs and all that. So they were really strict. Old Chicago had the same. They had a list. And of course, in Minnesota, I used mine.
Mhm.
I used the contractor, because they were used to building them, and just kept having them do that. But as you travel to different regions, we bid 2 or 3 contractors. We found a contractor, and instead of bidding it, we would negotiate with them once you get used to them and you trust them. Because a lot of times, as you guys know, the architectural plans might not always be the best to deal with. So a lot of times your GC that's done multiple stores, they can pick that stuff up, because the buildings, I did a lot of TIs. So
They learn what you want as the owner.
yeah. So the TIs are so different, they can put their eyes on it when they're building it. They can call that out, or bidding it too. We always did walkthroughs on the bid, so they could kind of get an idea on terrible logistics of getting materials in, or whatever it was. If it was a tight mall, a lot of Florida things down in the Fort Lauderdale area and Miami-Dade County, very difficult to build in. So we had a lot of local contractors, and just using them. And again, that's a point where you learn from them. You learn from the GC. You kind of, good and bad. You make sure you don't do their bad habits too. But that was one of the biggest things I enjoyed about the travel and all these GCs is working with the trades. It was, and I was so used to being in Minnesota, and then once I started traveling for those 13 years, it was just enjoyable to go out and see how they did it. The East Coast, and very fast paced, New Jersey, New York, great guys, a lot of union. You've got to watch everything that's going on there. But I mean, really good craftsmen. I enjoyed that, seeing that. And then on the flip side, kind of helping people get through their job and make sure they're doing it correctly, because you gotta be paying attention at all times. It's just, especially when it's so quick, you don't have time to move stuff around, and you have time to pick up the pace and redo it. That costs a lot of time, and everything in the world I come from, and I'll go to the next step that I was, after Sports Authority. That was a pretty quick stint. I got on with Smashburger. So Smashburger, and I've never even heard of them before. I kind of had a headhunter, and she said, "Hey, this company's out there, Smashburger. They got 9 stores in Colorado." So I went and interviewed with them, and they ended up hiring me as their director of construction. I go, "Oh, okay. Who's my, I got project managers? No, you're it." I go, "Oh, I can direct myself. That's pretty. That'll be pretty easy." Well, little did I realize how fast they wanted to go. But
What was the record year for build outs?
we probably did, and we actually, as I got going by myself, they had like 13 stores ready for me. Like, can you go get these running? And like permits. That's the first thing I asked them. And this is 13 different locations all over the country. I'm like, where are the permits at? Because I can't do anything without a permit, and landlord leases and all that. So, and that was a big thing too. Is when you travel like that, is they started having me look at the site before. Is the water, is the water right? Is the power right? Is the drainage? Where's the grease interceptor? They're as big as a bus. Where's that going? There's a lot of things that, and I was working for a private equity firm, and they built this. They were building Smashburger, and obviously they built it up to eventually sell it. So they really weren't into the details of all that. And from my restaurant experience, I started asking those questions, and I got a lot of blank expressions like, we don't know. So that
They weren't builders or restaurant people. They were
money people.
Money
And spreadsheets, and it looked great on paper, but schedule wise, I'm like,
do you know what the biggest year was though? How many you did?
I would say there's like 35
in 1 year.
35. Well, I had by the time we got rolling, I had 2 project managers, and an assistant, and a whole development team too. But yeah, 35. And then we actually got into a process where we're helping out franchisees, development in a box. So, which can be difficult because the franchisee coming in, obviously, usually wealthy individuals kind of have their own idea on some things. So you have to, again, that's another learning process, how to manage them and figure out how we're going to get this built per our spec. And you can't tweak it. You can't put your own little shelves in or nothing. It's kind of, when you're building a corporate standard, you got to stick to it. But a lot of people with wealthy, they have their own ideas, and they're not used to being told the word no. So that was another huge learning experiences. And in that with Smashburger, I had a great mentor, very highly educated, really strict. I watched how he was our purchasing agent too for us. He could make sure he was getting exactly what he wanted at the time and at the price he wanted. So I learned a lot of that through him. And he taught me important. I think I talked to Nick about that, and he, in my position, as that grew, I became vice president of construction, but I was still running projects. So it was a little like having your bags on as a carpenter and still being the superintendent, still traveling, still doing that. But he taught me an important lesson. Like, I'm dealing with CFOs, CEOs, all the higher ups. And he said, you have to learn how to manage up. You need to learn how to manage those folks, not just your people, not just the contractor you're overseeing. You got to manage your boss, basically, is what he's saying. And he said to me, don't tell me yes if you know the answer is no, and for very good reasons. He said, I don't want to hear that it's yes if it's no, type thing.
Do you remember a specific example or scenario where you managed up?
Yeah, it was, it comes back to that. There was a site, I think it was in Florida. I'm not sure on the site for sure, but I was already doing a site down in this area, and they said to have me swing by there, and they were already progressing with getting permits, and they already set a date, like an opening date, working backwards from 9 weeks. And he's like, can that be done? I said, yes, but I got to run new water line through the whole building. So that's a dollar amount. And that's where I had to manage up to a CEO. It's like, why does it cost so much for that site that's 2,200 square feet when over here I built one for 2,200 square feet for $200,000 less? And I'd say the water, the grease trap we had to, the location of it, or the power. And power, as you guys know, is huge. If you don't have enough power in the building, you have to have XL Energy or the local power company come in and reevaluate, engineer new transformer. You're talking money and weeks and months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good example of like where I had to go in front of the CEO, the president, and say, that site's not going to happen because, in the time frame you guys said, because of this. And that's when they actually had me start going out to every site before they signed. I think they had maybe the LOI, but they didn't go for a full lease until we did an analysis on it saying that's not going to work. I mean, it'll work, but it's going to cost X amount more.
Yeah, sometimes, delivering bad news is always hard to do, especially to your boss. But I'm pretty sure every boss would want to hear the bad news over someone sugarcoating the scenario and telling them what they want to hear. The actual answer, even if it's not what they want to hear, is a much better route to go, I guess is what I'm getting at. And it could be something big, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like you were talking about, or it could be, something small, like, hey, can you get all these safety rails put in today? If the answer is no, you got to tell me no, because then we can't move on to tomorrow's activities. Could be down to the smallest thing. But yeah, just integrity, I guess, is what it comes down to.
Well, and that's where we learned that we needed somebody looking at these sites, and I couldn't get to all of them. So my project managers, again, they knew what to evaluate. We had a list of this is what we need from that landlord, or we'll have to spend that much more money, or they'll have to back charge us, whatever it was. But at least you're out in front of it. We learned that pretty quickly, that we're doing so many so quick that we can't just have real estate look at them, sign it up. The LOI is fine because that's just temporary. But boy, once you go to lease, that's yours. If you didn't put it in there saying, I need this, this, and this,
you own it.
Yeah, you're basically on your way then. But that was another step in my career, is how to learn how to do that. And then you're dealing, all the way from carpentry. Now I'm VP. I'm dealing with CEOs and presidents. I'm dealing with landlords, people that own these strip malls, and they own the different buildings that we're going into. It was kind of it just evolved as always being there, always working and being, kind of calm and knowing, I guess, being prepared. I think that's the biggest thing as you get into management and dealing with managing up, is being prepared. Don't go in, have all your ducks in a row and be able to say, this is why, or this is why not. This is why it can't work.
So you've mentioned to me before that there's been certain parts of your career that you kind of just had to wing it because you're dealing with a lot smarter people, or they've been doing this for a lot longer than you. And obviously you can't always just wing it, but what allowed you to be able to kind of wing it until you knew what you were doing, or grew into the role that you were? Because you kind of just were thrown into some of these roles pretty quickly.
Mm.
Do you think it's just that consistency, good attitude, being a sponge and just absorbing everything, admitting when you don't know something, learn from your mistakes, all of the above?
I think that's all of the above. I do have a funny story, and I think I've told you this before. When I was doing 2 physical therapy clinics, and our company in Minnesota got involved with Lifetime Fitness and all that whole group. But they were taking over a lot of Kmart's and doing all that, and then they have extra space. And I was doing these 2 clinics side by side in the same building, which is great. But for one of the owners of the company, and he was an interesting character. But I called him once. He always wanted to know what the money part, if there's running into money. I had a little bit of money, but I'm saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it was silent on the other end. I'm like, Steve, you there? He goes, Jim, if it's easy, anyone could do it. And then I heard dial tone. And I'm not kidding. That I looked at my phone and I'm like, And that made me think. That next part of that week, I thought, all right, yeah, you're paying me to do the job. And I was probably whining. He's probably heard whining coming from me as a young superintendent, but you just got to suck it up. And, you know, your subs, and you guys know this, your subs are your biggest allies. If you fight them, you're just creating a world of, I mean, there's times to step in. Usually the project manager should step in if it's money wise and adjust things. But if it's schedule and you got, you know, as you guys know, the A team, the B team, and the C team, different bigger electricians, plumbers, they have all these different teams. And in Minnesota, I was always on like our main projects. So I always seemed to have the A team, but I used those guys to learn from. And I had them, I'd always go to the owners of the company, electrician, plumbing, heating, whatever, to figure stuff out and use them as my learning curve, how to do this. What should I, and actually older gentlemen on the things, I'd ask them, what have you seen before? You know, how this came up and we got to get involved in this. How have you seen this handled before? So I think your allies are your subs, and I would always, you know, from a management standpoint, I would always go back to them and work with them.
2 questions. We're going to take a quick break at 45 minutes, but
Oh, do you guys know this is your first 4-hour show?
I was planning on it. Number 1, what was the hardest stint in your career? Hardest time period, whether that be just the most physically demanding, mentally taxing. Do you remember a time period where you're just like, I'm done?
Actually, I could have your mom answer that question pretty easily, and that probably the start of Smashburger, because it was such a new and demanding company with these guys that are all private equity, very super successful, and their demands on me, you know, just out of the gate were like 13. You know, do I get a jet or something? Can I fly? I mean, I'm flying everywhere all the time. So, and literally they had jets too. So I did get a chance to use some of them and once in a while, but they were. I just was coming to the point where, you know, I had East Coast to West Coast, so all time zones. So the phone call started at 3 a.m. They'd end at like 7 or 8. And again, these are important. These are questions that need to be answered. You know, this is a job. They're on the job. They need to, or they'll stop or they'll do it wrong. So I think probably my first, after 6 months, probably from 6 months to about a year and a half until they let me start hiring people to help. I think that was my most. I mean, I was just challenged beyond. I mean, the email thing too. That's crazy coming from when I first came out from Minnesota. It was funny. They, you know, you got your phone. The Blackberries just came out, which was hilarious because the IT guy came by in Rock Bottom for a BlackBerry. He's looking at me. He goes, "Hey, look at these new. You can get your emails on here." I go, "Oh, I'm good." He goes, "No, I'm not asking. This is yours." I said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you mean? You can email me anytime, anywhere?" Pretty much got me. I'm in a prison now because I was used to just the phone call, and that's, as you guys know, you guys are chasing emails all the time, and that was the challenge with Smashburger too. I mean, I would get off the plane and my thing would look like I won the lottery. It'd be dinging and banging, and I look like there's 30. I mean, out of those 30, maybe half needed immediate attention. You know, some were whatever, hi bye or whatever. But oh, that's okay. And you know, you guys, I don't know how that was the toughest part. Was that?
How'd you get through that year and a half?
Can't say alcohol. That would be good.
Wasn't noticeable to a teenager.
No, it was a little bit. I mean, a lot of challenge, but the challenge was kind of interesting. Am I going to survive this or not? And the demands and my immediate direct report was pretty aggressive. So and he knew I think he was challenging me at times, but I mean, I had another gentleman there that turned out to be my mentor that really kind of helped me through those times. So that was a big thing, is find someone like your mom always said, can you find someone else to talk to about your job? I'm tired of hearing about it. So I know there's a lot of wives out there that have the same thing. Just you got to find someone else. But that was I found someone in the company that I kind of talked to, and he'd say, okay, he'd lay it out and come up with a game plan. And his thing, and that's where managing up worked. He said, here's what you're going to say. You're going to have what you're going to say going into that meeting, and good or bad, that's just the way that you see it and the reasons why. You can't just say this is what's going to happen. You got to have some reasoning behind it. So
having that mentor, you think is the main way you got through that. If you didn't have that person, you probably would have lost your mind and quit.
Yeah, I've never quit anything. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to the layoff comes or the severance package, and the next job I've already had in the line, or I've had really good fortune with that. So,
what about the opposite? What do you have a highlight in your career that sticks out where you're, a period of time where it was the most enjoyable, point of your career, or something that you could go back and think about and it's good memories, I guess?
yeah, and that probably takes me to my current position. As Smashburger was sold, on the market, and we became, they already had all the people they needed on the other side. So my move into the millwork business with an entrepreneur friend of mine that actually I met when I first moved out here, and he and I got together twice a year for, I don't know, it was probably 15 years, and he's offered me the job a couple times to come in and run his, be an operations manager for his millwork company. So I think right now that's kind of the highlight is working with him, and he's told me all about it. He's a great charitable man. Has had a lot of success. He had numerous companies before this one. It's R&R Millwork, and he's one of a kind. I mean, I worked around a lot of people with extreme wealth, but this individual is very charitable. Has a charity that gives 50% of all his profits from our company to his charity in Africa. Has a second chance program. So a lot of my guys are coming right out of the halfway house or right out of prison that I interview. So it's been there's been challenges to say the least, but there's been some very big success stories in there too. So I think that's kind of my. And here's a little bit of the reason I'm the hands-on guy at this shop. I mean, I love to fix things. Like I say, mechanical wise, so I do all the equipment. I mean, I do have companies that come in and take over where I cannot fix it, but I'm working on edge banders. I'm working on CNCs, overhead beam saws, things like that. I love all that stuff. So I've been there. I'm starting my 10th year next month, but working with this whole company and working with the manpower, some good, some bad, but a little scary at times, a little nervous, but working with them and with this part of it, it's the hiring, the firing, unfortunately, all the reviews, taking care of the building. But you guys are going to be jealous. It's no emails. I don't have the plethora of emails coming in, no phone calls. I mean, obviously vendors, I do, during COVID, we all took an active role, which was kind of interesting. We shut down to, I had to lay off quite a few guys, and we were down to probably 12 of us. And that included myself. I took on, I learned how to do the beam saw. I was doing all the cutting. All our guys, even the owner was sanding in our sanding booth. But it really kind of humbled you, and you got back to your roots of physical labor. Ooh, it's really sore. You think you can work out a lot and do all that now. Hard physical days work is still the best workout, I think. So, but yeah, I think where I'm at now is the most satisfied I've ever been. And the longest. I think this is going to be my 10th year starting, so that's as long as I've ever been with one company.
On that note, we'll take a quick break.
That's awesome. I'm just still trying to process the traveling. Just the knowledge that you got kind of in an expedited fashion. I know it was 13 years, but just learning from all the different trades, all the different states, all the different jurisdictions it's unlike anything I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, you kind of you rely pretty heavily on your GC to guide you through that. If the GC is from there, we kind of went over that story down in Coral Springs, Florida. I had a GC I hired from Jacksonville that came down, and he had a lot of difficult subs in the region that he wasn't used to, that he ended up doing a lot of, let's just say the punch list was excruciatingly long. And this is someone that was building $3, $4, $5 million homes on the waterways in Jacksonville, and just wasn't used to it. The next one, and I was surprised there was a next one, he brought all his subs. All his subs traveled from Jacksonville down to Coral Springs to build it out for him. So it's a learning curve. But and there you get into how the trades, and I learned in Minnesota I'm obviously gonna be a little biased, but excellent trades. I mean, you go into your electrical rooms and that conduit is straight. Everything is meticulously, and that's not something people see, but that's something us tradesmen, and myself as a superintendent, I wanted to see things neat and clean, not run haphazardly. That's coming from a trim carpenter and fine detail and hardware and things. You like to see things correct and not halfway or not half-ass. You want to make sure, and that's one thing I learned really well in the Twin City market. And there's different areas of the country that have, you learn that too. And I came from the union. I'm a union carpenter. I was a union carpenter when I came out of school for 7 years. But they typically are very professional. They are very knowledgeable in what they do. You can argue on the breaks and, the don't pick up that. Don't do this. I was a carpenter at a refinery and I was a scaffold carpenter and go to pick something up. No, you have to have a laborer bring that to you. Some of that stuff is a little silly, but understandable. But usually your unions they're well trained, well educated, and professionals. So that's one thing I noticed about that. But going all over the country, and I know you wanted to bring up a point where I got at one point in my career, actually one particular job I was pretty nervous on. I was for the owners in the Twin Cities, building these Timberlodge steakhouses, which were like a log house restaurant. And the owner, I think I told Nick this the other day, it was coming down to the end in restaurants. Every restaurant, 3-4 days before you turn over, everyone comes in. Anyone that doesn't know restaurants comes in and goes, there's no way this is happening. There's no way you're turning this over. It's a disaster. There's things flying all over, but it always comes, not always, but usually can push through all that. But I had the owner of this particular company. He came and he had 2 chairs he's putting by the front door because going, Pete, what are you doing? He goes, this chair's for me. This chair's for you. This is, when you fail, this is where you're going to turn all our guests away for our private invite party that we're having. I'm going to tell you, this is Jim. This is why you're not getting this done. You're not going to get your free meal tonight, your free steak dinner, because he failed to get the project done.
I'm sure part of that was a joke, right? But
oh yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was. He knew me, and he knew that we could push through it. So, yeah. With manpower, you can get the manpower going. You just, again, you got to be on your toes and organized and be thinking ahead. I've a couple of projects before I traveled. I remember doing it's an orthodontist. I don't know if you remember Angela's Smiles up in the Twin Cities, and it was a Pizza Hut, and we gutted that thing, and it was like just a shell of a building left. We were going underground, plumbing was going in, dirt piles everywhere, and she's very meticulous, extremely smart. She comes in, and I just had my job table like in the middle of a dirt area, but I had all laid out the schedules, what's going on next, what's happening. And she was really impressed with just being organized in the middle of like a dirt pile, basically.
There's a lot that goes into those orthodontist offices.
Oh, there's a ton.
Yeah.
Ton underground, ton of all the mechanics of it it's very, very interesting, and it was a lot of fun, but I had to be on my toes with her because she was sharp. She was into it more than most like dentists or professionals that they kind of wait till you get to near the end. But the other one that was pretty interesting, not on my behalf, but with Sports Authority, we had force majeure. And obviously, you hardly ever use that, but it's a clause that most GCs carry. And they were building the shell in Missouri. This is in St. Louis, Missouri. They're building the shell for us. Well, I had 4 sports authorities going all over the country, East Coast. They said I was East Coast. I was doing one in Moreno Valley, California, too, and one in Arizona. So I guess I wasn't really East Coast. But I showed up, and I did a tour of all 4 sites, and that was the last one. All 4 sites had walls up, flying joists in, all the metal bar joists, everything. I show up there, it's flat. There isn't even a wall stood. But they had, I don't know how many days of rain. Trust me, they showed me every weather report from 1890 to present, what could happen there. And when I came into that trailer, I mean, I walked in, and we had liquidated damages, very steep ones. And they were nervous. I mean, though everyone was looking at me like, and I wasn't super young then. I mean, I was whatever it was. Well, yeah, I was still in my like early 40s. But I had a whole team of people. I thought they were going to get a meteorologist up there to. I mean, they had screens and the big job trailer. They had all this stuff, and I'm like, they're looking at me like this is it. You guys are gonna get $100,000 a day for till you get this thing done. So I come like, guys. Everyone relax. You have a valid point. This is force majeure. So it's true. This one, usually it never hits like that, but they had, I don't know, inches and inches of rain day after. It's just a big mud pit.
So wait, what's that called again?
Force majeure.
And it's a clause in the contract?
Yeah, weather related,
Okay. I never heard that
Mother
term.
Nature.
Yeah, Mother Nature. And they trust me, I heard that word like 1,500 times that day. But it was interesting to walk in and see like 15 guys with an expressionless look, like, this is what we have to explain to you. Like, all right, everyone at ease. You aren't going to get, it's not going to happen. We're not going to hit you with all that because you guys have a legitimate thing.
I'm just chuckling thinking about them prepping, the general contractor, all guys. Are you sure that was the weather report for that week? That day? I thought we had sunshine that day.
No, and they did. We had there was pictures coming in. There's pictures and stuff, but I didn't expect to see a level site. I'm like, you guys don't have a wall up? And I knew they felt bad, so I didn't, I could have had some fun there and just said.
How did they get through it with all the rain?
Oh, it eventually stopped. I mean, Noah went by and they got the thing. And they were doing the poured walls in play. They did the poured walls, they frame them, pour them, and tip them. So it was a very unique situation in that building. So
that wasn't typical, pouring them on site?
No, they usually panels brought in. Panels brought in, tipped up and welded. So on those particular ones, again, that's the developer that hires them. So that's a different kind of a mentality because I was kind of project managing them, but I didn't hire them and I wasn't paying them. So, but I had to make sure they were done in order for me to get my TI started. And my TI contractor, the Sports Authority is pretty strict. We had 9 or 10 weeks to build out the inside of one of those. And you're talking tons of floor prep and tons of floor moisture content. That was my biggest nemesis with a big building like that, especially new building. Where's that concrete at? Because you're talking rubber floors, that glue. And I had one in Amherst, New Hampshire. They ended up having an aquifer down below, but they put the glue down for the rubber floor. I'm talking, I don't know, 30,000 square feet of it turned into this slippery mess, slime. Had to scrape it all up. So there's just a lot, and I learned a lot on the fly. Like you said, it's the travel part of it. You got to learn how to travel. And basically, you do what you do at home. If you work out, you get your workout in. You do your things. You try to eat the same. I mean, traveling is it's not a vacation. It's you're doing your job. You have to continue to do, get your work done for that job. And I worked with my project managers at Smashburger a lot and just said, look, when you get to the airport, allow another hour to go through your emails. Your phone's going to light up when you turn it on. I mean, that's back when you had to turn your phone off. So I said, find a corner, get in your ground car, go sit in a parking lot, whatever. But when you get to the job, concentrate on those guys. Because if you're sitting answering phones, you're doing emails for every other job you have in the country. I mean, you're there for them.
You're kind of half-assing both at that point.
Yeah. You got to make sure you're getting their questions answered and seeing what you need to see, making sure they're doing the right thing too.
So you threw out some advice there for people that are traveling, whether it be traveling superintendent, traveling PM, whatever. What do you think your biggest piece of advice for someone that's about? I mean, my sister is just getting into more of a traveling position. Have you given her any advice to how to handle all that and stay sane and stay grounded, if you want to call it that?
It's different with every company. Like Sports Authority was pretty structured. They had their they had the in-house person that did all your bookings and things. You just tell them where you need to be and when you need to be there. They'd make all the arrangements. Smashburger, I did all that stuff myself, which I kind of like because it's a little more flexible. So I think with my daughter, she needs to make sure as she gets into more and more travel, you need to kind of set your schedule to make sure you have, so you're not in a panic mode. Obviously, there's always those trips. I mean, I had a Florida emergency the day after Christmas one year. I mean, I was on a plane first thing in the morning to get down there, to get to the city, to do all the stuff. I mean, you're always going to have those emergency things, but your day-to-day travel that you do all the time, you can't be in that mode. You have to feel comfortable like you're going to a job site. Like the plane is your bus. You're taking your bus to your job site. You're getting set up. You're going to go work with people. You can't be in a panic mode. If you're in a panic mode, what do you think they're going to be? I mean, you're there as not their leader, but their person that asks questions to, and you should have the answers, or you'll find the answers out for them.
So you just have to be in the right mindset when you show up to the job site, as if you were local, just driving down the road, going to work.
Yeah, you gotta have that kind of mindset. You can't come in spazzing and worried about this job or don't. I just encourage my project managers, don't go there and talk about other jobs. They don't. Number one, they don't care. Number two, they have a project to get done, and that's what you're there to kind of guide them to. So that was always I enjoyed that part. I enjoyed meeting all those different subs. Some of those subs, and it was funny. There's a couple of them in New Jersey. A couple electricians, man, they were cocky, and I was watching them work, and they're doing their stuff, and I said, all right, you can cocky, and you can back it up, or I'm all in, because they're just, they kind of challenge you as a younger guy. You're going to get challenged from some of the older trades members for sure, especially if you're not in the trades, and obviously you couldn't be an electrician, plumber, carpenter all at once, but the older you get, the more it'll settle down, I think. And that goes for what you guys do too. I mean, you got to be calm. You can't let it get to you. If you let it get to you to the point where you can't have a discussion, you can't step back and look at it and go, all right, we have a problem. A lot of times there's more than one ways to fix it too. So you can't be locked in like, this is what I have to have you do. You can end up getting, pushback most of the time.
So with all the areas and places that you've traveled, in your opinion, which place is the hardest to build?
Florida, Miami-Dade County by everything I've ever done there.
Is it the codes? Is it the people, the building departments?
It's the codes, their structure, and a lot of it has to do with hurricanes and what I was doing TIs, but we still had to have to get involved with the outside glass. But they just had really stringent inspections, and how they did it. They seem difficult to work with, and sometimes I wanted to position myself between my contractor and them. I don't really need to know them. And then one real interesting story you guys are going to like with New Jersey. So when I was doing that Sports Authority in Missouri, I had an electrician that I knew that was doing that project, but the foreman came to the Missouri site when it was up and going, and he was going to start running all the lighting, which was a ton of lighting in those. He shows up, and he had an older truck, but it was just beautiful. It was like, looked like it was freshly painted. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but I'm looking at the truck. I'm going, did you just get a new truck? He goes, no, I had to have it painted. He said compliments of the electricians out on the East Coast. He was pushing them because they had union. They dropped their bags at whatever, and he was just pushing too hard. Well, they took conduit right down the side of his truck, blew out his headlights and all that. Saying stop nagging us basically. And he was on another project, but not too long after that, the superintendent that was out on the East Coast job, he said, Sports Authority I just started in New Jersey. He said he had the dumpster out there, and I hadn't shown up yet. And two guys showed up, blacked out Lincoln, one small, one giant gorilla guy. And they come walking in. They go, hey, how you doing? They introduced themselves, and they said, I see you got so-and-so's dumpsters out there, and that's great. Fill it up, and then you'll be using ours going forward. This is, I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, you'll be using our dumpsters. He goes, well, how much are they? He's being a nice guy, and he was paying $300 a dumpster, and those are $900. He said, what? Well, I know we're not. You'd have to talk to the product. He said, I don't care who you talk to. Just tell them these dumpsters better be out here going forward. So I walk into the site. These two guys walk by me. I didn't say a word. I didn't want to say a word. So they get it in their blacked out Lincoln and leave, and I'm like, who are those? He said, oh boy, we got a new dumpster company. Put it that way. But it's funny because like 3 weeks later, he goes, every Friday I get cannolis and a bottle of wine at the site. So I'm like, okay,
That's wild.
So some of that stuff still happens out there. It's pretty interesting.
That is interesting. I'm just really curious. In your opinion, which state or city has the best electricians? I'd like to run down each trade, get call outs for each state and city.
I think I'm being a little biased here because I used the most electrical work in Minnesota. So there's contractors up there that are really good that I've used. Chicago had really good electricians. Overall, I really didn't. It's interesting too, California. Surfing time is real. I was doing a remodel there in San Diego, and like one day, Minnesota has hunting. Like that's a legitimate in fall when it's opening deer hunting. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week, you're not going to get a trade.
Really?
You're not going to you'll get maybe a sparse one or two guys. You might as well shut down. But in California, I was in downtown San Diego, and they said something about surf, and I go, yeah, whatever. That's a joke. Oh, no. The next day, I said, I asked the supervisor, where's all your guys? He said, surf's up, man. It's real. I go, no way. You got to be kidding me.
That's crazy.
Did you get to go out and surf with any of them?
No. I stay at the site. But yeah, it's just, I think that it's a great experience. But again, I travel a lot. It was Sports Authority was like almost 41 weeks that year. I was on the road. Oof. That was very trying. But a lot of my travels with Smashburger were anywhere from Tuesday to Friday or Tuesday to Thursday. I tried to be home on Fridays, and I had boys in football, so I wanted to make sure I was always at football games and things like that.
Right.
But stress level was up there. You get the call like, hey, just had the health department stopped in. They said they're not going to do this and you can't do that, and you got to scramble then. Is
that kind of one of those emergencies that you had day after Christmas? Health department or?
No, that was building department down there. They were being strict on. I forgot what it was, but there was something I had to go down and talk to them, and it was just overall that traveling was, and then I was worried when I stopped traveling, because you're I was in motion for 13 years, and then all of a sudden nothing. I was like, you're going to be home every day? Like, every day?
What do we talk about?
No. I'm sure that was a learned thing, just because you get caught up in the race,
Yeah.
Slowing down is definitely, it's hard. It's an adjustment. it's a different season.
The perks thing was funny because everyone goes, "Oh man, you go!" I said, "Yeah, we take spring break. I take all 4 of my kids, and my wife, airfare, hotel, cars all covered in points." And that guy goes, "Look!" Somebody looked at me, and I looked at back, and I said, "Nah, I just travel too much. That's all that means. You got that many points, you're traveling. It's way too much."
Right.
Thinking back to like any point in your career, how did you manage your personal life and your work life? Because you had a lot on your plate at work, and obviously you had 4 kids at home, so you had a lot on your plate there as well. How did you manage balancing those 2 worlds?
Honestly, my home life with you guys was my release. I use that as my whatever works behind me. We're gonna go snowmobiling today. We're gonna do whatever, boating or whatever we were doing. So I really, somehow you gotta lock it out. Obviously, you're gonna have times at the end of the job. Your mom could attest to this, and you guys can. At the end of the job, the stress level. She didn't even You don't have to tell me. I know it's the end. It's inspections, and if you miss, a fire or whatever. But I think the family part of it was my outlet. Back in the beginning when I was framing houses and doing the physical work, coming home and playing with the kids or walking around, it's you're doing that. But the traveling part, just to be home, I think my focus was more on the family and to do stuff. Your sports. You guys were all in sports, so we were moving around, doing a lot of things. But yeah, I think that was my outlet.
We ask most people this, but how did you leave work at work and not bring it home with you most of the time?
Yeah, it was.
Did you just have a switch that you could kind of shut off, or?
No, I think there was so much going on because we had 4 kids. We had a lot of things going on, so you didn't really have time you had to shut it off because you were involved with conversations or wherever your mom and I, you go to soccer, we go to football, or whatever it was, we kind of divide and conquer. But I let that be my release. I let it go. But you just have to, and not always, obviously.
How often did you come home to just chaos? Because I can think back to several moments where
I got a couple.
Mitch and I were wailing on each other or something.
I got some phone calls in the middle of my travel. I said, just kick them outside. Call the cops. Whatever. Just put them outside. The girls are fine as the boys. So I think again, my family life saved me from dwelling on just doing the construction part or It's funny because when you're leaving, like early in the week, everyone's kind of in a good mood. It's almost like the Vegas thing. And I did a lot of stores in Vegas, a lot of Smashburgers in Vegas. That I got stories, but just to leave, by the time you're coming home, I just wanted to focus on no one talk to me. I just want to go home and be with my family now. And it almost drove me to be more of a listener at home when I was away, because you have that moment, from Friday afternoon to Monday, and you might get on a plane Tuesday. And that's what I would recommend to our daughter is schedule your time so you have your time. She's not married, obviously, no kids yet, so, but she still has her own personal time. You can't be working all the time and doing, that's sometimes people that are single, that's what they do. They and that's fine if that's your thing, but you got to separate yourself, and it's just not. I always enjoyed just being with the family, and it's almost like automatic because you'd come home and it wasn't like, what can we do? Like, no, we're doing this and this, and we're going here. And it's already kind of pre-programmed because you guys had so much stuff you're doing. Or if we were going out in the boat or riding sleds, these guys have been riding sleds since they're 10, 12, not kitty cats either. In Minnesota, we had a big acre lot, and we were right off the trail, so if it snowed, the garage door was open. They were riding. Every snowflake in our yard was pounded to the ground. I felt terrible because the people behind us sold their house, and everyone had acre to 10-acre lots. But it's just this pristine snowfall, and I see them out their patio door looking, and I see Nick and Mitch coming around the corner with both sleds, both on a sled, just pounding every snowflake into the ground.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I mean,
I know. Talking to Mitch and Nick, they're pretty bummed the December that we're getting here in Colorado.
yeah, it's been.
It's like every morning. It's two depressed guys. Oh, guys, come on.
But that's kind of how you separate, I think.
Yeah.
Or if you have hobbies, I mean, or if you're sports. I mean, my wife and I are in pickleball now. We like to do that. But anything, I mean, if you got kids, that's kind of should be your focus. And so it's hard to let go, but you'll see it. The more they get involved in things, the more you'll have an outlet when you get home instead of dwelling on whatever happened that day.
What piece of advice would you have for a young person coming out of high school, dropping out of high school, someone that needs to make a decision whether they're going to continue their education, go into any career path, or more specifically, thinking about potentially jumping into the trades?
I would say definitely look at. I mean, there's a wide variety. We're talking auto mechanics, diesel mechanics, any kind of plumbing, electrical, heating. I mean, there's so many. Well, I mean, kind of what's your aptitude? What looks interesting? I would look at them all, kind of lay them out and look at them all. If you're not the school-driven, book-driven type person, kind of look at it all together and pick what might be your aptitude to kind of go do. Instead of dwelling on one right away. I think there's a wide range. And then, do you like to work with your hands? Do you like, I mean, it's kind of surprising where Mitch and Nick ended up. It's really shocking because I would have thought Nick would have been the project manager and Mitch be the superintendent, because in college, he wasn't even going to school for any construction, integrated physiology. And he got hired by a gal up there that was taking big homes and retrofitting and putting a lot of money into them and selling them for more. And Mitch became like, he was doing physically the stuff. He was running subs. He was learning as he went. And he's more now, he's in the project management end of it, and Nick's in the superintendent. I always enjoyed the superintendent role. I wanted to look as a younger guy, but as I aged a little bit and that opportunity came at Old Chicago and Rock Bottom, I just thought that's probably where I needed to progress to is kind of a project management part. Now, a little extreme, to pick up your 4 little kids and move across the country and get that job. But the opportunity was there, and I kind of took it and ran with it. But I think that's where kids coming out of school today can hear my path. I mean, no college education. And, I got to the VP role and got, and then you can do that. It's attainable. It's very attainable.
It's kind of a common theme that we keep hearing. We've had quite a few business owners on that started pushing a broom and, learned a trade and decided to split off and start their own company. So there's definitely a pathway to success with this industry, starting at the lowest rung.
And there's something to be said about the lowest rung. When you're younger, it's less stress. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you guys are learning the higher you step up in roles, the higher position you have, the more money you make, the more responsibility you have. And that can, you got to be ready for it too. You got to realize when that one owner kind of said, Jim, anyway, if it was easy, anyone could do it. And I heard dial tone. I thought, no, he's got a point. I need to, do my job and get this thing done, figure it out. So, and that's a lot of, it helps you with problem solving too. I mean, there's no job and you guys do massive projects. I mean, I can't imagine the headaches. You guys have told me a little bit here and there, but you guys run into some major things, structural but those things all can be figured out too. Obviously, you have to get more involved. You have to bring in engineers and bring in the MEP engineers and make sure it's done right because you're dealing with big structures. But a lot of my stuff was like a short snapshot of something I had to quickly figure out, usually not involved in MEPs, but usually getting the city approval. And like you mentioned, the trick is, because I was everywhere, I had to figure out who your good inspectors were in what part of the country and who your nemesis. Is it going to be the health department this time, or the fire marshal? Or, I mean, every city seemed to have one that was, you had to cater to a little more. I'm putting that nicely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So we started out talking about your 40 plus years in the industry. I guess, in your opinion, what has been the biggest thing that has changed from the day that you started out on the job site to where the industry is at now?
I'm not sure so much on the physical part, because the physical part is still the same. There's new technology, new tools, new pump trucks or whatever. I think you guys are feeling the wrath of the email thing, the computers, the technology, how quick. On the other hand, you got a phone. That would have been nice to be able to take a picture of something, send it to the architect, send it to the engineer, and have an immediate feedback of what he was seeing. I mean, that we didn't have that technology. We had fax, a roll of fax, and that would fade after like 30 days. I mean, it was actually good in a way. Some of it was gone. No evidence.
No evidence.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything in your world now is any email, anything you
CYA.
say. Yeah, it's all locked into time, which again, it's kind of a good thing. And I preach that a lot to even project managers now that I work with, is get everything in writing. Don't promise something. Send an email how we're going to do it, what we're going to do, especially if it involves a change order, a change in the project, a change in them, everything. It's a different. And the other thing too, I want to bring up, like, I'm in a cabinet shop, but it's a manufacturing. I had to learn that the big switch for me over to from project management and a VP of construction for Smash is going into manufacturing. It's not just cabinet shop. This is a process. You want to be able to we bring in raw materials, we produce whatever color laminate, and we lay it all up, and we're involved in everything from the raw material to the finished product. And any part of that has, I've learned that nothing can, and especially in charge of all the equipment, nothing can break. And it does, but that stops the process. It slows down the guys assembling, and it's a different world. But I'm in a covered world. I'm not dealing with any weather, any elements anymore. So it's been nice that way, because my whole life, I've been dealing with the elements and getting not so much in the TIs, but on the ground up stuff. It's always, as you guys know, it's a challenge. You got the elements could be a nightmare.
Yeah, TIs do pose their own issues. I've had my small but fair share of them. Just anything that you open up has so many surprises.
Oh, yeah.
There's one in particular. There was a shopping center in Aurora. We were converting it to a church, and we chipped up sections of concrete, and then when we started peeling back walls, we just felt like we were opening more and more problems. But you just work through them. Different set of problems, different set of critical thinking.
Yeah, it is. It's challenges that'll come up, and you almost got to expect some of it.
Mhm.
I mean, you always put in an allowance in a budget for things that come up, whatever percentage that may be on a project. But if you don't use it, great. But you're covered money wise, and then the argument with everyone is schedule, because a lot of times they don't think because you found something that you could pay for it, that's great, but schedule shouldn't change. And no, that's not the way it typically works. It's a constant fight, schedule and money.
Yeah, you can only open up the checkbook so far. Can't really add days or hours to the day.
No.
In your career, you've had, in my opinion, one of probably the perfect arc from starting as a carpenter, running all the way, and I'm blown away. I'm just processing. I could probably pick your brain for easily another 6 hours, just trying to gain the knowledge that you have. Is there one thing that you would have done differently in your career?
I want to say get more educated on stuff, but I don't know that I had the time. I mean, now when you think about where I'm at now, sometimes like when Nick had engineering classes, and this was what 10, 15 years ago now. I mean, I was interested in some of the stuff they were doing. I'd have liked to have learned that. I don't know where it would have been practical. Maybe some of it would, in different from the ground up projects.
Mm-hmm.
But I think some of the education that you guys received in college, not a lot of the classes that don't really lock into what you need, underwater basket weaving or whatever else they're doing. I don't know.
Women in film.
Yeah.
It's my favorite class.
Is that a real class?
Yeah, I took it. It was awesome. Such a waste of time.
Nice. At least you paid for it.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite woman in film?
Oh, I don't remember.
You might not want to say. But yeah, I think I don't know. It was so. Looking back, there was just so many blessings I got to switch so easily from one job to another.
Well, you had a couple. Yeah, I mean, there was a couple scary moments in there where, I mean, you got laid off a couple times, three times.
Yeah, basically, and that was after moving out here. Now, again, I could always, you had to sell a house and do all that, but I could have moved back and the company would have taken me back, or I could find another one, carpenter wise or superintendent wise. But yeah, the rock bottom thing came kind of suddenly after Thanksgiving. It was pretty troubling. I had 4 kids and a wife at home. Like, why are you home early? I'm out of a job. And that was a shocker. The other one, Sports Authority, they let us know like 3 months ahead of time that they were going to phase out their development and their whatever. They ran into a lot of problems because they're gone now. But I had time to look at that one. This one didn't, but Sports Authority popped up within 10 days. So it was. I mean, literally, I started with them with a plane ticket to Marlborough, Massachusetts, and out the door I went with their director of construction to go look at one that's in progress that they wanted me to take over. So it was kind of a whirlwind.
How do you think? I mean, yeah, a lot of fortunate scenarios with finding work post layoff, but I mean, obviously you were doing some things right to put you in a position to find something so quickly. Do you think it was just positioning yourself professionally, or was it networking, or how do you think you landed those things so quickly?
It was networking, and then references. I've never really I never burned a bridge leaving a job or getting laid off, whatever it was. So I think that was a big thing. I had really good references just from work ethic, and the other was networking. I got one of our recruiters from Rock Bottom. She helped me out. She's the one that even brought up. She's the one that first brought up Sports Authority, and then at Sports Authority there was one that brought up the Smashburger thing. So I got to know people in the company. And as these things come up, and usually they help you out, but the network part of it, and that was kind of before LinkedIn and all that, just getting to know people in the recruiting business, and I get to know a couple of them, so they just drop some names. But I think it's important to leave, get good references, because that's what ultimately. I don't have that luxury now. The way I hire is usually I can't really call the incarceration place and say, how was he? So it's a little different now, but that's, I mean, in the regular business industry, you want to make sure you build your resume, but leave a good, so you get good references.
I wanted to ask this earlier when you were talking about the second chance thing. I think it's awesome. Do you have a person or an individual that has like a really cool story and is doing really well now currently with you?
I do. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but let's say he started with us sweeping floor, but this was before I even got there. started with us sweeping floors, not thinking and no one even give him a chance. And then the owner ended up giving him a little more opportunity, doing deliveries, we have local vendor pickups, things like that. But kind of to compact it into a store, he was brought into the office to start doing some project managing. He has that kind of a skill set, that kind of a personality. And he's super funny, big old boy, ex-Army Ranger. But he's excelled to the point where he's our lead estimator. He works with clients. He's got a good sense of humor. It's a huge success story. I mean, that to me.
He's done stuff for us too, and anyone at Confluence that's worked with him just loves the guy.
That's cool.
Like, I think Dan's hung out with him on the weekends and stuff.
That's
like,
awesome.
He's just such a cool guy.
I mean, it was to the point where he was like, if it wasn't going to work out, he was going to do something he probably would have regretted and either ran to Mexico or just perished type thing. So
good for him.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, he's one of my best friends now at work. I mean, he and I converse. We were right next to each other. Our offices are right next to each other, and he's wonderful. So
That's awesome.
I wouldn't cross his path, but
yeah, quite the backstory too. If we ever have the opportunity to get him on the podcast, maybe he would elaborate on.
Yeah, I'd love that.
His whole story.
Really good sense of humor too. He's funny.
Right.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing that I've noticed in construction is that there are so many people that come from so many different walks of life, and construction's that one. Everybody has one goal, kind of thing, one village, and a lot of people grow out of bad habits or the woe is me, guilty by association kind of mentality, and they get to work for one common goal. And it typically, there's a lot of success stories in construction where it pulls them out of their bad environment and allows them to excel. So it's one thing that I love, running into everybody in construction, because everybody has a past. Some are greater than others, but there's a lot of success stories out there.
It's also interesting hearing your story and some of the other people that we've had on. There's just so many options. If you just get a foot in the door as a tradesman of any kind, you can go so many different directions. You can go into management, you can go into sales, you can go into design, you can go into PM, superintendent, estimator, delivery driver. There's just everything under the sky, or sky's kind of the limit. And it just opens up a lot of different doors, even getting a bottom of the rung, pushing a broom type position. We've got a young guy now that I tried to explain that to him. You can do anything you want. Like what interests you? Do you want to be an architect? Do you want to be in the field your whole career? Do you want to be a money guy? Do you what's interesting to you? One thing that I think a lot of younger people don't understand, and the world's just so fast nowadays, and it's kind of instant gratification when it comes to technology and entertainment and all that kind of stuff. It is a slow process. I mean, it's taken you 40 years to get to the point you are now. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's probably years down the road, if not half a decade or a decade, to get to where you want to be. So you just have to be patient and learn as much as you can as you go, and just stand behind your work and have pride in what you do.
But in the meantime, you're learning a trade if you're going into the trade part of it. So that's something I'll always have. I mean, I can pretty much do anything construction-wise. And it's just, the older you get, obviously, you're not going to do too much of it. Framing's a young man's sport, but
that bathroom almost killed you.
That's a lot of late nights.
Yeah. They finally remodeled their bathroom.
I've done every square inch of the house, and for some reason, my wife is an angel, and she's just never pressed me to do the master bath or master bedroom. And the
It was pretty bad too. Like
master
it was
bath
carpeted.
still had carpet in it. The shag carpet from '96 when the house was built.
What color? Orange or blue?
No, it was like a
beige.
beige color, but yeah. But just to get, it was kind of fun because I did bring a tile setter in for that. I took care of the rest, but I mean, there was vents. Every corner they cut. I mean, everything I opened up had to vent outside the wall. Like, well, that's why there was a seat there because they're covering up their sins. And I had a lot of vents to move and a lot of, I mean, just easy stuff, but
just time consuming.
now I understand. It just dawned on me doing that bathroom after 40 years of construction. Every time the plumber would come into the kitchen, they have their gunny sack full of fittings. They dump them on the floor. I did that because I had so many different things in fit. I bought just bags full of fittings. I dumped them right on the bathroom floor, and I go, oh, now I get it. You want every capable piece that you can push, 22s or 45, whatever it is. You need it all there just to go through it. But I always laugh because the jobs when I was superintendent, I come into the kitchen, it's like, do you have to have that crap everywhere on the floor? And yes, they actually do. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah,
It's like a puzzle they're putting together. There's no, I mean, plumbing's in the wall, but it doesn't say how it's going to get in there and how it goes. So
you have to visualize every piece. I mean, like you said earlier, though, your move from Minnesota, moving your family from Minnesota to Colorado, you could always go back, and that's kind of like the trades. It's low risk to learn it. You're either going to be good or you're not. You're either going to like it or you're not. You're not losing anything by trying it for a couple of years.
No, not at all.
You're gaining some
knowledge.
modesty. You're gaining some knowledge, and you're gaining appreciation for each person that does it. Even to the plumbing story, you don't know why they do it until you're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we typically ask everyone just kind of outside the paycheck, what have you gained from being in the trades? I think we've talked about that plenty. But just to elaborate on it, I mean, the knowledge and experience that you can gain in 40 years is astonishing. I'm pretty sure all of us, if we run into a house problem, a car problem, any kind of problem, we can call you, and it typically is like, did you try this? And it's immediately the right answer. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, just that experience and knowledge and doing the work and putting your hands on things and actually learning how to fix something or build something is really the only way that you can have that.
Well, it's a sense of accomplishment. I mean, that's kind of goes all the way back to my high school days when I was building these little nightstand cabinets for my bedroom or building a lamp, on the lathe or whatever. It was the first time and my dad was a CPA, so I had he changes oil in his car and all that, and I have an older brother, 10 years my senior, that's, to say he's a car guy is just a really not even covering it.
It's an extreme understatement.
It's an extreme understatement because it's over 50 cars. But yeah, I didn't come from that at all. So I didn't. And I think when I was a freshman in high school, my parents had one of their friends was a contractor and came in and redid our house, redid our kitchen and put a deck on, put a patio door in. I watched all that, and and especially when they did the deck, his son was a carpenter for him, and he kind of freestyled this cool plant stand and kind of the angle of the roof coming off the garage. He did all this cool stuff, and just out of his mindset, just with a skill saw, he was cutting and fitting, and it just dawned on me that I'd like to do something. That's my aptitude, is to physically do something. The book thing, I was never a book guy, really, to say the least.
Just to kind of wrap things up here, is there anything that you'd like to say to our listeners, whether that be a young guy thinking about getting into the trade, someone that's doing restaurants that's struggling and doesn't know how to, you know, figure out what he's doing and get his mind right. Someone that's traveling a lot. Anything you want to say to your previous mentors or to the guys at the shop now? We just want to give you a moment to talk to whoever.
Well, I think the younger guys, I would say, like any job, they say give it 6 months. So I would say if you're going to get into the trade, and you don't have to, I mean, the company you might get with, maybe you don't, maybe it doesn't not the right fit. Don't let that come down on the trade. See if you can get through that and get to the point where, do you like what you're doing? Don't worry about the foreman yelling at you or whatever. Because I've had so many high strung guys that it's just unbelievable, and that's not the way I managed either. I mean, there's no, I only had one incident I think my whole career where some guys laid some tile overnight where I told them not to because they had to they put their equipment in a bar, and I told them not to that overnight. I just happened to be on a job up in, that's when I still lived at home. I wasn't even I was just went up there for North Dakota. But they put all their equipment in, and then I came back the next day and we had to tear it out to put all the stuff in. And meanwhile, they're sleeping. So that got a little ugly. But I mean, for younger guys, just give it a chance. Give it a chance. Look into it, look into it a little bit. There's so much, you guys have so much more technology than I had with the computers, the YouTubes, you can see so many things, but you give it a chance. And as far as restaurant guys, just look, and I try to teach you this, Nick, is think beyond. What's next month? That portion will be done. I'll be done with this. You got to think beyond it a little bit. You got to have schedule and be organized, but you got to think. I've always been able to envision the project done, and that's where I kind of think where it's going to be. And we had a kind of a thing. One of my project managers from Rock Bottom, Vince, he just, perception is almost everything. So a couple of times the trades would leave like 3 days out. We'd set everything up. We'd set all the chairs up. We'd set the tables up, get everything. They come in and they stop. They look like this is a finished restaurant. So now your mindset is a little different. So I would say try to get, when you get near the end of a job, it's always going to be difficult. You got trades, but that helps with the inspectors too. They come in, they don't see so much of a job site, especially health. Health would love to see, they like to see everything clean and detailed, but get it to the point where before they turn over, or before you have the finals and all that, make it a restaurant. Get that stuff in, get it out of the Connex box, get the table set up. So the next day the trades come in, they start going, they have the perception is now you're operating in a finished space. And any job, really, your guys' job as well. Get the finished look to it so they don't come in and it's not a job site anymore. It's transitioning. I hate to use that word, but the site's transitioning over to a business. And you don't go into someone's business and throw your tools all over the counters. And, I've had, as you guys have, I've finished counters and you didn't set cardboard down. You got all your tools on there. That's a finished product and you scratch it, you bought it. Mm-hmm. But you know how that goes. No one, who knows who did it type thing.
Right.
To my mentors, just a great thanks, really. A couple of people, director of construction and with Smashburger too. The learning, the knowledge they had to teach me outside of the trade. They weren't tradesmen, but how to manage up. Never heard that before. You gotta take those expectations like you do with your people you're managing, and you got to use it going upwards too, so that, and they almost appreciate it. Sometimes it gets ugly. Sometimes you could run into a little backlash, but depends on how
your approach,
how big a person you're talking to.
Sure.
So, what was the last one?
Guys at the shop.
Guys,
your boss now.
Guys are at shop are phenomenal. They're such hard workers. They're the craftsmen. The craftsmanship. It's beyond what I've always, because you're in a shop, everything's perfect. The cabinets, the machinery is unbelievable. The CNCs, we've got nested CNCs now that I just had put in last year, and it's been amazing to see all that equipment working and just spits out pieces finished and all the holes drilled, and it's just a matter of like putting it together. But I mean, we got a lot of challenges. We're pushing through some bigger projects, so they're there every day. I mean, these guys are, and I am as well. So it's fun to have a whole group. I've never been in one place so long. Like in contractor, you're moving all the time, especially when you're doing restaurants and TIs. You just get to a job and you got like 12 weeks to do it, and you're in the dirt, and then all of a sudden now your building's built, and then you finished, it's all nice, and then you got to leave, go back to the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're constantly starting over.
Now you have a consistent team.
No, yeah,
I'm sure you've got a handful of core members that have been there the whole time for the last decade.
Yeah, the shop foreman, we have a lot of guys that are well over 10, 12 years. A couple of them are 15 to 20. So it's good to have. I mean, they just get things done. And the level of finish, I mean, you're talking about furniture grade stuff. It's laminates. It's things you can't really do that much out in the field. So it's neat.
I'd love to schedule a time to go visit it.
Absolutely.
Visit the shop.
I was pushing Cody. We just got so busy.
We did.
But we were doing that 14-story in Inglewood, right down the road for. You were there for what, year and a half?
A little over. Yeah, because I came. Yeah, when you guys were pouring 7 and 8, and then I finished it out. Yeah, over a year and a half.
Yeah, let me know.
That was a bear. Cody brought that thing to the finish line.
It was good. It was good. We should have gone to the shop that when we were so close.
I know.
We'll
schedule a time.
Yeah, schedule a time. Come down.
Yeah, love to.
These guys are. It's just fun to see some of the things that we're producing. A lot of movie theaters. Do a lot of grocery stores for King Soopers. We're doing a ton we got this ABC, which is active behavioral centers for autism. That's one of our biggest clients right now. So we're doing these big jungle gyms for each location, and that's from scratch. I mean, the climbing walls, the whole netting around the whole thing. It's pretty amazing all the parts and pieces that go into these. So it's been a change for everyone too. Instead of just building cabinets but it's amazing the theaters these days. I mean, the bars are 60, 70 feet long that we're building. And then we do solid surface. We don't do any stone or granite or quartz or anything. So those guys will come in and template it all for stonework on top of it.
It's incredible.
So I don't know if anyone's watching movies anymore. They're just going to the bar.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure and an honor to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for having me and letting me share my story.
Until next time.